Users of Reddit, what is a big red flag you regret ignoring? She cheated with me before she broke up with her ex and we got together. Imagine my surprised Pikachu face when she was hooking up with a bunch of guys behind my back. My golden rule / question to myself is, how did the relationship start? Anything that could be perceived as negative will ultimately come to fruition and turn into a bomb. I know there's still the chance that even if a relationship starts with something negative that relationship could go all the way. However, the chance is so small. Sorry bro, but hopefully it's a relationship you can learn a lot from when reflecting on it. It was 6 years ago, so it's just more of an irritating memory than anything now. Luckily she moved away and is now New Hampshire's problem. And I agree, if there is negativity or some deal breaker right from the beginning, it's just gonna fester until it blows up. Now I just prefer being the single cool uncle. Far less damaging to my mental state, lol. Love bombing from the very beginning. He also told me one weekend that he loved me. I had an ex who did this, finally realized what had happened when I overheard him explain to his brother how to do it. One of his tricks was to give small gifts, like a little something every date. He explained this as a method of tricking a woman into thinking about him every time they saw the gift. There's also a lot of flattery, rapid communication, and ignoring regular boundaries and rules on how to communicate in the early stages of a relationship. I'm not in a good place to be in a relationship. Yeah, I probably should have listened to that one. Honestly, yeah, you should have. I got out of a bad relationship and met this girl who was great, but I had tons of baggage. I told her I wasn't ready for a relationship, but I was too good to just let slip away, so she kept hanging around and I kept telling her it's not a good time. I didn't kiss her, sex, nothing, because I wasn't ready. Like 2 months later I'm getting yelled at for wasting her time and leading her on. She had astronomically bad luck. She had been falsely accused of plagiarism and kicked out of college. She had a DUI on her record even though she wasn't that drunk, but the breathalyzer was miscalibrated and they mixed up her blood sample with a different DUI arrest. She got fired from her job for stealing when she didn't actually steal but got set up. Everything just went wrong for her. Or maybe, just maybe, she was a huge asshole who couldn't own up to her own shit. Husband recently had to fire someone who had previous disciplinary issues that he insisted weren't his fault. People were just out to get him. Despite video proof otherwise. Nothing was ever his fault. I can only imagine the story he gave his wife of why he was fired. Sounds like she's been with him for decades, so maybe she's never figured it out. She told me that she had recently been diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. I took it in stride, figured it just meant she had a minor issue. Just over the border, a little, right? Turns out, that is not at all what that means. As a woman with BPD, when a guy starts getting attached I tell them to fucking run. I know I'm no good for relationships and I'm okay with dying alone. Definitely better than destroying another person just for the sake of love. My last relationship was with a BPD girl, 2 years, ended on our 2nd anniversary. She had been in DBT, therapy for BPD, for her entire adult life. I know she tried her best and entered the relationship in good faith. Her friends loved her peers loved her coworkers loved her. In the end, she still ended up breaking me and being pretty horrible to me. Did not see it coming at all. I feel nothing but pity for those with the diagnosis. I know it's not what they want to be like. Like you, however, I will never let someone like that into my life again, no matter how much they've worked on it. It's a special kind of hell to be in as a partner, and I'm sorry you had to endure it. Hope you're doing better now. Man, I can tell this is real answer, and thank you. I'm getting better. My younger brother killed my pet hamster because I accidentally broke his Power Ranger he left on the floor, under a blanket. He told my mom that he didn't see the hamster when he was getting up to get a drink and accidentally stepped on it. He's now 3 years into his 7-year sentence for accidentally hitting and crippling someone with his car after having an argument with them. I always just chalked it up to him being a huge ass, but now I realize he's a low-key psychopath. My brother killed animals, too. He arrived at my apartment in spring or summer of 2004 and idled outside in his work SUV. He worked in a crematorium. He called me with his work cell phone to come outside to show me something, and he refused to get out of the vehicle. In the back were some large cardboard boxes. He had that absolutely thrilled look that he only had when he had either just killed an animal or was about to play some cruel trick. He insisted I look in the boxes. I refused. He tells me the coroner had started sending the crematorium dismembered bodies to cremate, and that was what was in the boxes. He was absolutely desperate to get me to look. I didn't look. I figured it was another cruel trick and refused to participate. By chance I met a former Clark County coroner on a ferry in the SF Bay in 2015. She told me that the coroner never, ever releases bodies in pieces they cut up. There's no point and it would be illegal. He may have just dismembered a cadaver in his care. He may have made a cadaver. I will never know. He spent more than a year of his short life locked up for pled down child rape and took his own life in 2008. The fuck kind of charges are you looking at if you plead down to child rape? That was the original charge, but he was pled down to attempted lewdness with a minor under 13. But don't get it wrong. It wasn't an attempt. He did it over and over for at least 5 years. I was so blind. She told me every guy she dated broke up with her. I eventually found out why. Same, but guys seemed to get bored of me after about 3 months. I once dated someone who confided in me that she hadn't really ever had a long-term relationship, and she had a pattern of relationships lasting about 2 months before moving on, for whatever reason, and she would often jump from relationship to relationship. So she had decided to take an extended break from dating to work on herself. I was the first person she dated after that break. I figured, whatever, I'll give her a shot. She was open about it, was self-reflective, and people can change. Plus, I liked her. She wasn't a bad person, but she also wasn't a great partner. She never really expressed appreciation or desire for me, never offered to pay for dates, and I just never felt pursued. After weeks of dating, being intimate, going to each other's apartments, I randomly logged back into the dating app that we had met on and it showed she was still active. We never had an exclusivity talk, so she wasn't necessarily doing anything wrong. But this was long after we met. If she was still looking, it told me a lot about how into me she was. The final nail was that she kept canceling dates, sometimes the day of the date. To be fair, she was pretty busy with work and studying for a professional license, but after the third time canceling a date without offering a time to reschedule, then also not wanting to talk on the phone, I called it off. And noticed we were right around the 2-month mark. Gee, Rebecca, I think I know why this keeps happening. When the person I was seeing would never introduce me to their friends or family. Oh man. She invited me to all the holidays, and I lived 8 hours away from family, so one day if she removed the invite, I couldn't just go home. Missed Thanksgiving with my family. Went to a casino by myself, but as soon as she was done with family she texted and wanted to cuddle. Got angry I hadn't sat at home all alone all day waiting for her. Tried the same shit for Christmas, but I had a plane ticket booked and didn't cancel it. When she backed out day before, I said cool, and went and saw my family. We ended in June that year. She did everything to keep me from going home, but never let me meet friends or family. Eventually found out I was the side piece. Such an idiot I was. Hope you told the main one. Did. He didn't believe me. They are married and hopefully happy. She went through a box of old pictures and found pictures of my high school girlfriend. It was 7 years out of high school / breakup, and then proceeded to cut her out of every single picture. I think we're past red flags already. Yeah, sad thing is it took me 16 years, half my net worth and a lot of pain to get past her. Everything was always someone else's fault. All of his exes were crazy / wrong. His family was problematic. Everybody was against him. Egad, did I find out about him the hard way. All my exes are crazy. Yeah, spot the common denominator there. I know. Men aren't the only ones that fall for a pretty, handsome face and a nice butt. One of the early days of us dating we went to Target and he jokingly pushed me, causing me to actually fall over and hit my head on one of the metal shelves. Mind you, this man was over a foot taller than me and twice my size. I was confused, so I started crying a little and I asked why he did that and he got all huffy and told me I couldn't take a joke and he obviously didn't mean for me to hit my head. You know, instead of apologizing and checking to see if I was okay. Same guy also told me weeks prior that with my short hair I looked like a little boy in a dress. Serious question, what made you want to stay with someone who would so blatantly insult you to your face by saying you look like a little boy? Did you just chalk it up to him joking? Did you think it wasn't that big a deal for him to make a little negative comment? A little bit of both. This guy was really good at hurting me, be it verbally or emotionally. Then he would quickly start showering me with praise and affection and love and all the other stuff on the other end of the spectrum. I also just had pretty low self-worth. I had just gotten out of another shitty 4-year relationship only months prior. I thought I had a better understanding of what I wanted and how I deserved to be treated. The highs were so high I could never see how low the lows were until hindsight. I stayed for long enough that I can say even years later I still have some fucked up self-image issues and fear of intimacy because of this guy. Don't ignore red flags. My GF at the time used the words, while talking about manipulating someone, I just always know what to say to make someone feel how I want. Hesitates, then looks over to me and says, but I don't do that to you because I care about you too much. This was pretty late in the relationship's life, so I think she just barely cared to hide it anymore. I was heavily mentally checked out, and accepted this excuse without a second word. I did 100% notice it deep inside myself, and I still remember the pang of self-hatred. I don't understand how someone can think they're so good at manipulating people, and then monologue about how good they are at manipulating people. Blaming me for things that I had no effect on. She got a bad grade on a quiz because I helped her study. Blamed me for her dropping her laptop because I was in another room doing my own thing and couldn't hear what she was saying, so she had to get up off the couch, which led to the dropping of the laptop. Blamed me for her not being prepared for a presentation at work because I had a work event instead of being there for her, which always meant just sitting there on the couch next to her while she put it together. Blamed me for her backing into a pole in a parking lot because I didn't pick her up from work, but I decided we'd meet at a restaurant. So many more. Nothing was ever her fault. First date, she told me her favorite movie ever was The Exorcist. Whatever, I love scary movies. Then the first time we had relationships, she gave me chlamydia. Soon after, we actually watched a scary movie. She came back from the bathroom wearing a scream mask and holding a kitchen knife because she thought it was funny. I did not, but I was just like, okay, she's quirky. She later ended up actually trying to stab me, multiple times, amongst other awful physical or psychological abuse. Ever heard of locus of control? Every person has some idea of how much control they have over the things that happen to them. Well-balanced people will lie somewhere between fully internal and fully external. Someone with a fully internal locus of control will drive themselves into the ground blaming themselves over the weather. Dated a guy like this once. But what's generally worse is those with a fully external locus of control. The woe is me, everything happens to them. No accountability and refuse to accept that their own choices, at least in part, got them to where they are. She rage quit every relationship she had ever had. I was her last friend, so I thought she would hang on to me. Nope. My ex would drop some of her closest friends easily. She was extremely stubborn and would not budge. Some of them I could understand, but others were for such trivial reasons. For some reason that red flag didn't go off in my head, like, you realize she will do this to you sooner or later. She did. He arrived carrying only a single black rubbish bag filled with his possessions, but claimed that his home had burned down. A little over a year later, he left with a black garbage bag full of his possessions, therefore our place must have burned down as well. Not that I dated him lol, but a guy I worked with would drive this old beat up car and then claim he'd never bring his 10 expensive cars to work, and then said he has $400,000 to $500,000 in cash at all times, but when it came time to buy a route he couldn't find it and therefore couldn't pay the $60,000 for the business. Now he says he couldn't find the $500,000 the way I'd say I couldn't find my toothbrush. She was such a sore loser. Like toss the cards if she was losing at cards, or smash and smear all the letters around if she was losing at Scrabble. It escalated from there as she would literally corner me in a room and tear into me for something I said. I left once as she went to the bathroom, mid-tirade. In her pajamas and slippers, she ran down 2 floors of her apartment's parking garage to stop me. Oh, and neither of her own kids would talk to her. Her parents and sister didn't speak with her, either. But they got the religion and she didn't. I just thought I could make it work. Everyone has sore points and triggers. But I was so relieved when she left. The family not speaking to them is very telling. When I was 17, I was dating a guy that was already by that age a career criminal. Which was fine with me at the time because I was doing a lot of drugs. But one night he called me from jail. And long story short, not his brother, sister, parents, cousins, aunts/uncles, friends. No one would help me bail him out. I should have known then. I was 17 and a child trying to figure all this out, and no one would help me. His whole extended family disliked him and thought he was flaky. He fed me a sob story about how they were all assholes. I ate it up. I had so much empathy. No, he's just a flaky asshole. Example, he would promise his little niece that he would go to her hockey game and then not go cause he forgot. She'd be devastated and then he would insist she forgive him since he forgot. This one is so hard to navigate when you're only hearing one side of the story. In some cases, people do have asshole families to the point where separating themselves from them makes sense. But in other cases, it's a way of avoiding accountability for being an asshole themselves. I'm glad you were able to learn the truth. All 3 of her kids were in jail. I paid for lawyers trying to be the knight in shining armor. Turns out she really was a shitty mother and all 3 kids totally belonged in prison. What did the kids do to deserve prison? B&E, breaking and entering, for the youngest 2. The oldest stole a cop car LOL, which is kinda cool. I have a smidgen of respect for that one. They had cheated before. While I appreciate the honesty, once a cheater, always a cheater. That's really not always the case. Although it's still a red flag. When I was 22, I was the absolute worst boyfriend ever. 15 years later, I wouldn't even think about cheating. Recently dated a girl, admittedly insecure, for a good while, and she had all of my passwords and phone locks too. He would tell me stories about his crazy ex-girlfriends. I ate them up because I trusted him. In retrospect, his ex-girlfriends probably acted crazy towards him because he was abusive, narcissistic, and conflict avoidant. I wouldn't be surprised if he was telling a girl right now about how crazy I am, LOL. Oof. So true. I'm feeling this right now with my own situation. Emotional and physical abuser, didn't realize how crazy his behavior was, keeping a loaded gun in the center console of his car, driving super fast and crazy if I made him mad, insane amounts of gaslighting, and it's finally over and I got an order of protection against him. He told me so many stories of how his girlfriends were all crazy and abusive and stole from him and blah blah blah. It's only now I'm truly realizing he probably did all of this to them, and that's why he fled relationships and had a scorched earth policy. Met me online and showed up homeless living out of his shitty truck, and basically moved in with me right away. He's on Reddit and probably on the phone to his crazy codependent mommy right now talking about how insane and toxic and manipulative I am lol. Without a hint of irony. I say, let us rejoice in the fact that we are crazy ex-girlfriends, and not current girlfriends. Take care girly. So many. I think one that was subtle but important was seeing him treat his mother like crap when she literally did everything for him. Later, a big one I ignored was when he talked about not being a sheep by avoiding getting a job and not being a slave to the man and selling drugs instead. He looked down on people who made an honest living. This, I learned later, is actually one of the things on the checklist of sociopathic behaviors. He felt he was above the law and regular societal rules and laws didn't apply to him. Also probably that he was 24 and dating a 17-year-old. Also regularly pushing boundaries. As someone who sold drugs, only weed, I had tons of respect for people who held down a real job. Shit's tough, and they were also my customers. Lol. She said she was bisexual when we met later on. She told me that she was still bi but leaning towards girl later on. She told me that I'm the only boy she was attracted to. I ignored this and was shocked when she broke up with me because she's lesbian now. Well, hope you and her had a good time while it lasted. Yeah, the time we had was good, but it really stung when I got broken up with since she didn't directly tell me why and I found out via a TikTok post of hers months later. It's alright though, I've moved on and I found a new girl recently that I really like. He didn't eat vegetables, he didn't brush his teeth, he compulsively lied, he has his girl best friend's nudes on his phone. The only films that we could watch together were Fast and Furious or Need for Speed. When angry he would drive dangerously and threaten to kill us both. When I would try and break up with him he'd say no. He would continuously brag about his family's wealth and achievements whilst being exceedingly mediocre. I spoke a language fluently because my family are from that country. He did it at GCSE and kept telling us we were incorrect. His mum threatened to kill me and sat in her car outside my house for hours at a time. He was incapable of feeding himself or doing his washing. He assumed I'd do it for him. He still lived with his parents and we didn't live together. He kept trying to tell me the subjects I studied weren't hard and I must be stupid. I was an A-grade STEM student. He did all business technology. In total I was with him 2 years before he cheated on me and broke up with me as it was my fault for not being attentive enough and that his family hated me because I had working class disabled parents. Would have crazy nightmares at night and would sweat like crazy after any alcohol before bed. Didn't think anything about it until I mentioned it at work and a coworker overheard and told me they had type 2 diabetes and had the exact same symptoms. Turns out I was pre-diabetic and was headed straight to type 2. Doctor told me had I continued to ignore it I could have died in my sleep. The first red flag? I was staying up all night to talk to them when they were having meltdowns every night. The biggest red flag? They told me to end myself. Also graphic descriptions of torture, they were really into torture. And everything was a trigger and off limits to talk about, but if we didn't listen to them talking about torture then we didn't care about them. I went on an online date with a guy and we basically went out drinking with his friends. They talked shit about him the entire time and basically told me I should just go home. I ended up going back to his apartment so we could just hang out alone. He was putting the moves on me and I told him I wasn't interested in hooking up with him. He was getting more and more aggressive about it, so I got up to leave. He then blocked the door and was holding me back, refusing to let me leave. Luckily, I'm a slippery little fox and managed to get out of his grip, dodge under his arms and got out. I ran down that hall to get out of the building. He never argued, or said what he really wanted. I went mad trying to figure it out and bent over backwards to try and make him happy. I then realized that was the whole point and reason he refused to say. To make me do everything I could for him, and when it all went wrong he could blame me as he never said he wanted it in the first place. This is happening to me with my 25-year-old daughter. She is holding a grudge, angry about me not being a better mother. She hasn't told me that, of course. I have been in therapy for 4 years and it has helped me be better and do better. I do everything for her now, I didn't realize it. This post is exactly it. Happiness comes from within, not without, and once you understand that reaction to an emotion is a choice, you will learn you can't influence people via their emotions that they hadn't already made up their mind about. Massive drug use, a criminal record and being imprisoned because of drug dealing. But I naively believed and never challenged their false assertions that their drug addiction days were over. I found out I was being lied to in a very bad and very painful way, that their drug abuse was only worse and they learned absolutely nothing other than how to become a better liar. She hit me. I chalked it up to her going through a lot and not having anyone to talk to about it. She hit me maybe 2 to 3 times at the beginning of our relationship. For a while, I wasn't physically assaulted. About 7.5 years later I ended up having to call the cops cause she attacked me again and threw a glass cup at me, breaking a window. Never make excuses for someone hurting you. They don't have a valid reason to do it and you should run for the hills. If I left at that first incident, we wouldn't have become so attached and I wouldn't have had to deal with infidelity again.